Hello, this is John with Coach.Win. Each week, the coaches at Coach.Win get together and share best practices. We share articles we've written, articles we've read, and other sources of information that we think are valuable. We're going to be creating those into a podcast. Because we believe so much in AI, we're going to let the podcast be created by us uploading all those articles and have it automatically recorded. So while the voices you're about to hear are AI, the content behind it is all generated by the coaches at Coach.Win. Enjoy the podcast.
All right, ready to dive in. Today, we are tackling a topic that I think we all have a love-hate relationship with.
Oh.
Meetings. But are they actually a source of power for companies? I mean, can we make them work for us? We are going to find out today.
We are.
You have brought such an interesting mix of material to the table for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've got playbooks from Coach.Win and advice from entrepreneurs like Rob Simons and Mike Zani, even a former Olympic coach who became a CEO.
That's right. This is going to be fun.
It really is like we have assembled this ultimate meeting makeover kit.
Yeah. It's interesting to me how all these sources, even though they are so different, they kind of all point back to one idea.
Okay.
It's not really about having fewer meetings.
Okay.
It's about having the right meetings.
Okay.
And you got to start with a well-defined strategy.
I'm already hooked. So how does this whole meeting strategy thing actually work? Where do we even begin?
Well, think about it like building a house.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't just start slapping on the roof, right? You need a solid foundation first.
Right.
And so in the world of meetings, that foundation is like your company's strategic plan.
So we are talking about those big annual planning sessions where everyone gets together and figures out where the company's going that year.
Exactly. That's where you lay out the vision, the goals, the big why behind everything that you're doing.
Right.
And those annual strategic meetings, those inform every other meeting. Your quarterly plans, leadership meetings, even those little daily huddles, everything comes from there.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. It's like we have this roadmap that guides all of our meeting decisions.
Yeah.
You know where you are going, so you can figure out the best way to get there.
Right. And it's not just about that one big annual meeting either.
Okay.
Coach.Win actually recommends this whole rhythm of strategic conversations throughout the whole year.
Okay.
So you will have quarterly planning sessions to review progress, adjust course if you need to, leadership meetings where you are cascading goals down through the organization.
Right.
And they even recommend these regular little pulse checks to make sure everyone is on the same page.
So it's not just one and done.
Yeah.
You really are having this ongoing conversation.
Yes.
But I got to be honest, sometimes even those strategic planning sessions can feel a little, I don't know, aimless?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that they are actually productive and not just a bunch of people sitting around a table just talking in circles?
That's where the power of agendas comes in. And not just any old agenda. We are talking about an agenda that is carefully crafted to get some very specific things accomplished. And Coach.Win has some great templates for this, especially their strategic playbook and the quarterly game plan resources.
Oh, those sound intense.
Yeah.
What makes them so special?
They're designed to help teams really dig deep into their winning strategy. And it forces you to ask those tough questions, things like, what is your core purpose? What are your non-negotiable values? What is the one thing that really drives your business forward?
It sounds like it's all about getting really crystal clear on those foundational pieces that often get lost in all the day-to-day chaos.
Exactly. And once you have that clarity, that's when you can start setting these really ambitious goals.
Okay.
Coach, they call them BHAs. Big, hairy, audacious goals.
Okay.
They are the real game changers, the things that push you out of your comfort zone.
Ooh, I love this idea of BHAs. It is so much more exciting than just setting these generic little incremental goals.
Right. It's about aiming for something truly epic. And then, of course, you need to break those big goals down into actual steps.
Right.
Which is where things like objectives and key results, OKRs, come in.
Oh, OKRs. I have heard about those, but to be honest, I am still a little fuzzy on how they actually work.
Okay, so basically they're a framework for setting measurable targets and tracking your progress.
Okay.
You start with your objective. That's what you want to achieve.
Right.
And then you define a set of key results that will tell you whether or not you have been successful. The great thing about OKRs is that they can be cascaded through the entire organization. So everyone knows how their work fits into the bigger picture.
So it is like a chain reaction of aligned goals, all coming from that initial strategic plan.
Exactly. And it is amazing how that clarity can affect an entire company.
Yeah.
You know, when everyone knows where they are going and how they are contributing, it creates this focus and motivation that you just don't get with, random meetings and vague goals.
Oh, for sure. I am starting to see how a really well-structured meeting rhythm can be a total game changer.
Yes.
It's not just about talking, it's about driving action and getting results.
Absolutely.
But I do have a question.
Okay.
What about all those more informal meetings that just kind of pop up during the week?
Oh, yeah.
Team check-ins, brainstorming sessions, that kind of thing. Do those need the same level of structure?
They might not need a whole strategic plan, but clarity and communication are still key.
Right.
Even a quick, 15-minute team huddle can be really productive if everyone knows the purpose and the desired outcome.
So even for those really short meetings, you still need that clear agenda.
Absolutely. An agenda is like a roadmap. It keeps everyone on track, makes sure that the meeting stays focused and productive, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy either. Even a simple list of topics with a few bullet points can make a big difference.
I am already starting to rethink my own approach to meetings.
Okay.
But what I am really curious about is how all of this translates into building a high-performing team.
Okay.
How do you go beyond just checking boxes and actually create a team that's, greater than the sum of its parts?
That's where things get really interesting. And luckily, you brought some amazing resources with you today, especially from Mike Zani, the CEO of Predictive Index.
Yes. Let's dive into that. Tell me more about this Mike Zani and his approach to team building.
Well, Zani, he believes that the key to unlocking a team's potential is understanding their individual motivations.
Okay.
And he uses this thing called the PI behavioral assessment to basically, as he puts it, decode the human.
Okay, that sounds fascinating. But what does it actually mean to decode the human when you were talking about building a team?
It's about recognizing that everyone is wired differently, and those differences, those can actually be a strength if you know how to leverage them.
So it is not about trying to fit everyone into the same mold.
Yeah.
It is about embracing those individual quirks and talents.
Exactly. And Zani actually tells this incredible story about how he was at a meeting with a bunch of other CEOs, and this one guy, he had never met this guy before, and the guy basically read him using this PI.
Oh, wow.
Nailed his personality and his motivations right on the spot.
Wow, that is a powerful testament to the power of understanding these behavioral styles. Okay, I am definitely intrigued.
Yeah. Zani was so blown away by the experience that he became like this huge advocate for using PI to build better teams. He even applies these principles at home.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He tells this great story about managing his son, who has a maverick personality type.
Wait, hold up. Before we get to the son, tell me more about this maverick personality type.
Oh, yeah.
What does that even mean?
Well, in the PI system, mavericks, they are known for being very independent, innovative, and they're really driven by this need for autonomy.
Okay.
They thrive in environments where they have freedom to experiment and challenge the status quo.
So they're like the rule breakers, the trailblazers.
Yeah.
I can definitely see how understanding that personality type could be really helpful when you are putting a team together.
Absolutely. And Zani's story about managing his maverick son, that perfectly illustrates how those behavioral insights can actually be applied in like a practical way.
Okay, I am all ears. Tell me more about this son and how Zani used that understanding of the maverick personality to effectively manage him.
Well, it turns out that Zani's son is a super talented musician, but he also really hates authority and traditional methods of learning.
So a classic maverick.
Exactly. And instead of trying to force his son into a really rigid structure, Zani recognized that he needed a different approach.
Okay.
So he gave his son the freedom to explore his music on his own terms, encouraged him to experiment and find his own path.
That's so smart. It's about meeting people where they are, understanding what motivates them.
Exactly. And that's a key principle of really effective leadership.
This is all incredibly insightful. But how do we take all these principles and apply them in the real world?
Right.
Do we all need to go get certified in PI to build these high-performing teams?
You don't need to be a PI expert, but understanding the basic principles of behavioral styles can really make a big difference.
Okay.
And it all starts with awareness, just recognizing that people are motivated by different things, and what works for one person might not work for another.
So just be observant. Pay attention to those individual quirks and preferences.
Exactly. And then it's about adapting your communication and your leadership style accordingly.
Okay.
Some people thrive on clear instructions and well-defined processes, while others need more autonomy, more space to experiment.
So it is about meeting people where they are, understanding what makes them tick. I am starting to see how this all ties back to those strategic meetings we were talking about before.
Yeah.
You know, if you understand your team's motivations, you can set goals and make plans that actually resonate with them.
Absolutely. And that is a recipe for success.
This has been an eye-opening exploration into how meetings, when done right, can be a source of real power and inspiration for a company.
Yes.
But we've only scratched the surface, right?
Yeah.
There's still so much more to uncover.
Definitely. We have laid the groundwork, but now it's time to dig deeper into the practical side of implementing these ideas.
Well, I'm ready to keep digging.
All right. In the next part of our deep dive, we will explore those tactical strategies that can help you transform your meetings from, time wasters into total game changers.
Awesome.
Stay tuned.
I will. Okay, I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get practical.
Let's do it.
We've talked about the big picture strategic meetings and understanding those team motivations.
Yeah.
But now I want to know how to actually make this stuff happen. Where do we even start?
Well, let's zoom in on those day-to-day meetings.
Okay.
The ones that are the heartbeat of a company.
Okay.
Remember Rob Simons, the entrepreneur coach who's all about daily huddles?
Oh, yeah. He's the one who compares those huddles to a daily news source.
Exactly. Just like you check the headlines to stay informed, daily huddles give your team that quick pulse check on what's happening in the company. And Coach.Win has this awesome meeting agenda that mirrors that structure.
Okay, remind me what that agenda looks like.
It is so simple. It starts with headlines, where you celebrate the wins, you share those important updates. Then it moves to weather, which focuses on KPIs, those vital metrics that everyone needs to know.
So it's like getting that quick snapshot of how the business is doing.
Exactly. Then comes traffic, where you identify any roadblocks or challenges that need to be addressed. And then finally, you end with the one thing, where each team member shares their top priority for the day.
I love how structured and focused that is.
Yeah.
It's like a little mini strategic planning session, but for your daily work.
Exactly. And the best part is it only takes 10 or 15 minutes.
Wait, 10 to 15 minutes? That seems almost too good to be true. How do you actually cover all of that in such a short amount of time?
The key is just being concise.
Okay.
You're not diving into those deep discussions or problem solving at this point. You are literally just sharing updates and aligning priorities. It's about getting everyone on the same page and setting that tone for a really productive day.
But what if my team is already overwhelmed with meetings, right?
Won't adding another one, even if it is short, just make things worse.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. Okay. Those 10 to 15 minutes that you invest in a daily huddle,
Yeah.
that can actually save you hours of wasted time and effort down the road.
How so?
Because when everyone is aligned on those priorities and everyone's aware of the potential roadblocks, that reduces miscommunication and it prevents little issues from becoming big problems.
Okay.
It's like catching a small leak before it turns into a flood.
That's a great analogy. I'm starting to see how those daily huddles can really be a preventative measure.
Yes.
Not just another meeting to add to the calendar.
Exactly. And you know what? They're especially good for remote teams.
Why is that?
Because, you don't have those casual water cooler conversations or those little hallway check-ins that happen naturally in an office environment.
Right.
That's missing when you are working remotely.
Mm.
So daily huddles can help bridge that communication gap,
Yeah.
Even when people are all over the place. Create that sense of connection.
Precisely. Simons actually tells this great story about two companies in the same industry.
Okay.
One of them, they totally embraced daily huddles during the pandemic, while the other one got rid of them.
Okay, I have a feeling I know where this is going. What happened?
Well, the company that kept those daily touch points going, they were thriving, Their communication was strong, morale was high, they were able to adapt to everything that was happening really quickly.
Wow.
The other company, though, they struggled. Lots of miscommunication, people started forming silos, and morale just tanked.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big difference.
It really shows how those seemingly small but consistent touch points can make a big difference in how a team actually performs.
Right.
And it's not even just about staying informed. It's about fostering a sense of camaraderie, a shared purpose, And that is vital for success.
Okay, I am sold. Daily huddles are going on my to-do list. But what about, those more in-depth conversations?
Right.
The ones that are focused on individual growth and development.
You're talking about one-on-ones.
Yes, exactly. And to be honest, I've always struggled to make time for them consistently.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Shelley Schultz, the leadership expert we talked about earlier, she is a huge fan of regular one-on-ones. She actually believes they are absolutely essential for building strong relationships and developing talent.
What does she say is the ideal frequency for these meetings?
Well, she recommends bi-weekly one-on-ones.
Okay.
Now, I know that might sound like a lot for some people, especially if you are used to only meeting with your team, once a quarter or even less.
Yeah, I will admit I've definitely been guilty of that in the past.
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
You get so busy with the day-to-day that you forget about those conversations that actually build trust and help people grow.
Right.
But Schultz, she argues that those biweekly check-ins, they're an investment, not an expense.
I like how she frames it that way.
Yeah.
It really shifts your perspective from another meeting to this is a strategic opportunity.
Exactly. One-on-ones aren't just about reviewing tasks or giving feedback,
Right.
It's about getting to know your team members on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Understanding their aspirations and helping them develop their skills.
So it is about coaching, mentoring, creating a space where people can really open up and communicate honestly.
Absolutely. And Schultz really emphasizes that you need structure, even in these more informal settings.
Okay.
She recommends having an agenda.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah.
Agendas are important.
Yes. An agenda keeps the conversation focused and productive.
Right.
Plus, it creates the sense of psychological safety. When people know what to expect, they're more likely to share what's really on their minds.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like having that roadmap for the conversation.
Yeah.
What about those skip-level meetings that she mentions?
Yeah.
Where leaders meet directly with employees who don't report to them directly. I'm curious about those.
Oh, yeah. Those can be so valuable.
Yeah.
Skip-level meetings are a great way to find out what is happening on the front lines,
Right.
It gives leaders that direct line to employees who don't normally get a chance to share their perspective.
I bet those conversations can be super insightful. But how do you make sure they are productive and don't just devolve into, a big gripe session?
It's all about asking the right questions and creating a space where people feel comfortable giving honest feedback.
Okay.
Schultz recommends focusing on solutions, not problems. So instead of dwelling on what is not working, encourage your employees to brainstorm ideas for improvement.
So taking those complaints and turning them into constructive dialogue.
Exactly. It's amazing what can happen when you tap into the collective wisdom of your team. Those frontline employees, they often have the best insights into what is working and what isn't because they're the ones in the trenches, so to speak.
Yeah. This is all painting a really compelling picture of how a well-structured rhythm of meetings can create a company that is more connected, more engaged, and ultimately way more productive.
It's not just about checking boxes,
Right.
It's about creating this culture where communication is valued, feedback is welcomed, and everyone feels like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
I love that. So we've talked about strategic meetings, daily huddles, one-on-ones, even those skip-level meetings. Is there anything else we should add to our meeting toolkit?
Well, we talked about the importance of agendas, but there is another thing that is so important to make sure meetings are productive and things actually get done.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
It's all about the follow-up. I mean, even the most amazing brainstorming session or strategic planning meeting, those are useless if you don't do anything with those ideas.
So it's not just about talking, it's about doing.
Exactly. And that's where having clear action items comes in. So at the end of every meeting, no matter how small or informal, you want to document the key takeaways, assign owners to those specific tasks, and set deadlines.
So turning those discussions into tangible outcomes.
Precisely. Then it's about holding people accountable. Those regular check-ins we were talking about?
Yeah.
Those daily huddles, those one-on-ones?
Yeah.
Those are the perfect time to see how things are progressing on those action items and make sure things are moving forward.
I'm really starting to see how all of these pieces fit together. It's like a well-oiled machine, every part working together to get results.
That's a great way to put it. And the cool thing is, this system can be adapted and customized to work for any organization.
Okay, this is all super helpful. But
Okay.
I have to ask, what about those bigger meetings? You know, the ones that involve the whole company or a whole department.
Right.
How do you keep those from turning into those giant, unproductive time sucks?
That is a great question, and it actually brings us to a really important point. Even those large gatherings can benefit from those same principles of clarity, communication, and structure that we've been discussing.
So it is not just about those smaller, more frequent meetings. It is about making this a part of how you approach every single meeting.
Exactly. Whether you are gathering the entire company for an all-hands meeting or bringing a department together to brainstorm, those same principles apply.
Okay, I am ready to dive deeper into that. Let's talk about those larger meetings and how to make sure they're just as effective.
Awesome. Let's start by thinking about how to make a really compelling agenda for an all-staff meeting, one that informs, inspires, and keeps everyone engaged.
Okay, I'm ready. All right, so all staff meetings, those big gatherings, they can sometimes feel like a necessary evil, you know? How do we make them actually engaging and informative and, I don't know, maybe even a little exciting?
You got to start with the purpose. Like, what is it you're actually trying to achieve with this meeting?
Right.
Are you sharing big updates, celebrating milestones, brainstorming new ideas? What's the point?
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that trap of trying to cram way too much into one meeting.
It is. So before you even think about the agenda, you got to get clear on the why. What is the main message you want everyone to walk away with?
So laser focus.
Yeah,
Resist the urge to make it a catch-all for every single department update.
exactly. Once you have that clarity of purpose, then you can build an agenda that actually delivers.
Okay, and I am guessing those agendas should have a clear structure, just like those daily huddles and one-on-ones that we talked about before.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A well-structured agenda keeps things on track, prevents the meeting from going off on a million tangents. It's like a roadmap, guiding the conversation.
Okay, so what does a good agenda for an all-staff meeting actually look like? What are the key things we need?
All right, first you got to start with a bang. Capture people's attention right away. A story, a provocative question, even a quick video. Something that sets the tone for the meeting.
So grab their attention, make them feel like, hey, this is a meeting I actually want to be at.
Exactly. Then you move into the main part of the meeting where you're giving those important updates. You are sharing those key insights. Think about incorporating some visuals, use storytelling, keep things concise, and make sure it is engaging.
So break up those big chunks of information and keep people from totally zoning out.
Yes. And don't be afraid to get people involved. Ask questions, get some feedback, maybe even do a quick poll.
Well, that's a good idea. Makes people feel like they're part of the conversation, not just listening.
Right. And finally, you want to end on a high note. Summarize the key takeaways, reinforce that sense of purpose, and leave people feeling inspired and motivated.
Create a sense of momentum and that feeling that you're all part of something bigger.
You got it. And even though you are talking to this big group of people, you still want to maintain that personal connection. Acknowledge people's contributions, celebrate successes, make sure everyone feels seen and heard.
It's about finding that balance between the big picture message and those little individual touch points.
Exactly. And don't forget about the follow-up.
Right.
Just like those smaller meetings, you got to document the key takeaways, assign those action items, and hold people accountable.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense. But what about those other types of big meetings?
Okay.
Department meetings, team brainstorms, those project kickoffs.
Yeah.
Do these same ideas work for those?
You bet. It doesn't matter if you have 10 people or 100 people, the fundamentals are still the same. That clarity of purpose, the structured agenda, engaging delivery, and then that focus on action and following up afterwards.
So it's not about the size of the meeting, it's about the approach.
That's it. And even though we have been talking a lot about all this structure and agendas, don't be scared to leave some space for things to happen organically.
So not too rigid. You need to have that balance between structure and flexibility.
Exactly. Sometimes the best ideas just come out of nowhere, those moments of inspiration. The important thing is to create an environment where people feel safe to speak up, share their thoughts, and challenge things a little bit.
This has been such an eye-opening look at the power of meetings. I mean, we have covered so much. Strategic planning, daily huddles, those big all-staff meetings, and I am walking away with a totally new perspective.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, this is a journey, not a destination. There will be some bumps along the way, but don't get discouraged. Just keep trying things out, keep getting better, and keep working towards that meeting culture that makes people feel good, encourages new ideas, and drives everyone to do their best work.
This has been so insightful. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
You're welcome. It's been fun.
And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has given you some tools and inspiration to take back to your own companies. Remember, it's not about having more meetings. It's about having the right meetings.
Yeah, meetings that are structured in a way that actually works, that have a real purpose.
And when you get that right, those meetings can be a real force for change.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.